What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Postcard Views. Today we're diving into a topic that might make you rethink your vacation plans. Did you know that in 2022, over 3,000 Americans needed serious help from U.S. embassies while traveling abroad? That's a lot of people in sticky situations. So we're going to look at a few countries Americans should think twice about visiting in 2024. Trust me, some of these might surprise you. We've got everything from places where your souvenir shopping could land you in jail to countries where the locals aren't exactly rolling out the welcome mat for us Americans. But here's the kicker, the most dangerous country on this list. It's probably not what you're thinking. Stick around till the end for a twist that might just blow your mind. It's going to make you look at travel safety in a whole new way. North Korea, where souvenirs can land you in prison. All right, let's kick things off with a place that takes the concept of strict travel rules to a whole new level. Welcome to North Korea, where even the most innocent souvenir could land you in hot water faster than you can say totalitarian regime. Now, you might be wondering, why would anyone want to visit North Korea in the first place? Well, believe it or not, around 5,000 Western tourists visit the country each year. That's right. Some folks are willing to risk it all for a glimpse behind the infamous Iron Curtain. But here's the catch. If you're an American, your vacation in North Korea comes with a hefty side of danger. The U.S. State Department has a do not travel advisory in place for North Korea, and for good reason. The rules for visitors are so strict and unpredictable, it's like walking through a minefield blindfolded. Let's talk about those rules for a second. First off, you can't just hop on a plane to Pyongyang. Nope, you've got to go through a state-approved tour company. And once you're there, forget about wandering off on your own. You'll be accompanied by government minders 24/7. Want to take a picture? Better ask permission first. Fancy striking up a conversation with a local? Think again. But the real kicker? It's the seemingly innocent actions that can land you in serious trouble. Take the case of Otto Warmbier, an American college student who visited North Korea in 2016. His crime? Allegedly trying to steal a propaganda poster from his hotel. The punishment? 15 years of hard labor. Tragically, Warmbier was returned to the U.S. in a coma 17 months later and died shortly after. This isn't an isolated incident. In 2014, Matthew Miller, another American tourist, was sentenced to 6 years of hard labor for allegedly tearing up his tourist visa and seeking asylum. He was released after serving 7 months. The unpredictable nature of North Korea's laws and their enforcement is what makes it so dangerous for American visitors. One day you might be taking a guided tour of Pyongyang's monuments. The next, you could be accused of espionage for accidentally photographing the wrong building. And let's not forget about the broader political context. Tensions between the U.S. and North Korea have a habit of flaring up unexpectedly. In such situations, American citizens in North Korea could potentially become bargaining chips in international negotiations. But here's a twist that might surprise you despite all these risks. Some Americans who visited North Korea report positive experiences. They talk about the country's stunning landscapes, the eerie emptiness of Pyongyang's wide boulevards, and the surreal feeling of stepping into a time capsule. However, it's crucial to remember that these carefully orchestrated tours show visitors only what the North Korean government wants them to see. Stay because we won't let you leave. Venezuela. Economic chaos and tourist traps. All right, folks, we're moving on from the land of propaganda posters to a place where your dollar might be worth more as kindling than actual currency. Welcome to Venezuela, where economic chaos meets tourist traps in a perfect storm of maybe we should have stayed home. Now, you might be thinking, Venezuela? Isn't that the place with those amazing waterfalls and beautiful beaches? Well, you're not wrong. Venezuela is home to some stunning natural wonders, including Angel Falls, the world's highest uninterrupted waterfall. But here's the catch, getting there might cost you more than just money. Venezuela's been dealing with an economic crisis that makes the Great Depression look like a minor setback. We're talking about inflation rates that would make your head spin. In 2018, inflation hit a mind-boggling 1.37 million%. Yeah, you heard that right, million. To put that in perspective, Imagine buying a cup of coffee for $1 today, and tomorrow it costs $13,700. That's the kind of economic roller coaster Venezuela's been riding. So what does this mean for tourists? Well, for starters, it means you better be really, really good at math. The official exchange rate is about as reliable as a chocolate teapot, and the black market rate changes faster than you can say bolivar. There are stories of tourists showing up with a wad of cash, thinking they're set for a luxury vacation, only to find out they can barely afford a loaf of bread. Take the case of John, an American tourist who visited Venezuela in 2019. He thought he'd struck gold when he exchanged $100 for a stack of bolivars that made him feel like a millionaire. Fast forward to his first meal in Caracas, and he realized his fortune could barely cover a plate of arepas. Talk about a reality check. But it's not just about the money. The economic crisis has led to shortages of, well, pretty much everything. Imagine planning a nice dinner out, only to find that the restaurant's menu consists of whatever they managed to scrounge up that day. Or picture yourself on a road trip, praying that your gas tank doesn't run dry, because fuel shortages are a daily reality. And let's not forget about safety. Economic hardship often goes hand in hand with increased crime rates. Caracas, the capital, has the unfortunate distinction of being one of the most dangerous cities in the world. We're talking about a place where even locals think twice before going out after dark. Now, you might be thinking, but surely all this means I can get some killer travel deals, right? Well, that's where things get even trickier. There are indeed some suspiciously cheap travel packages to Venezuela floating around the internet. But remember the old saying, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. These bargain deals often come with hidden costs. Maybe the hotel looks great in photos but hasn't seen running water in months. Or perhaps the tour company conveniently forgets to mention that half the attractions on the itinerary are closed due to lack of maintenance. And let's not even get started on the potential for scams in a country where many are desperate to make ends meet. But here's the real kicker. Even if you manage to navigate the economic minefield and have a great time, you might face an unexpected challenge when it's time to leave. Venezuela's been known to have fuel shortages that affect flights. Imagine spending your last day in the country camping out at the airport, hoping your flight doesn't get canceled because there's no fuel for the plane. Somalia, pirates, warlords, and tourists? All right, folks, buckle up because we're heading to a place that makes the Wild West look like a petting zoo. Welcome to Somalia, where pirates aren't just characters in Disney movies and warlords aren't confined to history books. Now, you might be thinking, Somalia? Isn't that the country that's been in a constant state of chaos since the 90s? Well, you're not wrong. Somalia's reputation for danger and lawlessness is about as well known as its coastline is long. Let's talk piracy for a second. Somalia's coastline has been dubbed Pirate Alley for good reason. At its peak in 2011, Somali pirates carried out 237 attacks and held 736 hostages. That's enough people to fill 3 jumbo jets. While piracy has decreased in recent years, it's still a risk for ships passing through the Gulf of Aden. But it's not just sailors who need to watch out. Western visitors on land are at risk of kidnapping too. Their advice to American citizens? Do not travel to Somalia due to crime, terrorism, civil unrest, health issues, kidnapping, and piracy. That's basically every travel warning rolled into one. Now, here's where things get interesting. Despite all this, Somalia is trying to boost its tourism. Yes, you heard that right, tourism. The government is actually promoting Somalia as a tourist destination. They're highlighting the country's 3,000 kilometers of coastline, its rich history, and even its wildlife. I guess they're hoping tourists will be too busy admiring the beaches to notice the slight security issues. One travel agency even offers a 7-day tour of Mogadishu, promising visitors will discover the other face of the Horn of Africa. I'm not sure what that other face is, but I'm pretty sure it's wearing a bulletproof vest. So, what kind of tourist would actually visit Somalia? Well, there's a niche market for what's called danger tourism. These are folks who get their kicks from visiting places most people wouldn't dare to go. I guess for some people, a relaxing beach vacation just doesn't cut it anymore. But here's a word of caution. If you're thinking of adding Somalia to your travel bucket list, you might want to reconsider. The risks aren't just theoretical. In 2014, 2 UN workers were shot and killed at an airport in Somalia. And in 2019, a car bomb in Mogadishu killed 85 people. This isn't the kind of excitement most tourists are looking for on vacation. But now let's talk about Iran. It's a country where death to America isn't just something people shout at rallies. The US and Iran have been at odds for decades. Their relationship is like a roller coaster that only goes down. Why is it so tense? It's a long story, but it boils down to politics, nuclear programs, and a lot of mistrust. The US government warns Americans not to travel to Iran. They say there's a high risk of arrest and detention, especially for dual U.S. Iranian citizens. Think about it. You could be there to see the beautiful mosques or taste the amazing food, but end up in a jail cell instead. It's happened before. In 2016, Iran detained 10 U.S. Navy sailors who strayed into Iranian waters. They were released after about 15 hours, but it shows how quickly things can go wrong. But here's something surprising. Despite all the warnings, some Americans who visited Iran say they had a great time. Take Jason, a blogger from New York. He visited Iran in 2019 and was blown away by the hospitality. People kept inviting me to their homes for tea, he said. They were curious about America and super friendly. Jason's not alone. Many travelers talk about the warm welcome they got from ordinary Iranians. They rave about the stunning architecture, the bustling bazaars, and the rich history. It's like there are 2 Irans, the one in the news and the one tourists experience. But don't let these good stories fool you. The risks are real. In 2020, Iran released U.S. Navy veteran Michael White after nearly 2 years in detention. He was visiting his girlfriend when he was arrested. The charges? Insulting Iran's supreme leader and posting a private photo on social media. It shows how even small actions can lead to big trouble. The problem is, you never know when things might change. One day, relations might seem to be improving. The next, a new crisis could pop up. It's like walking on thin ice. It might hold your weight, or it might crack without warning. Honduras, the murder capital's tourism problem. Let's talk about Honduras. It's a country with a big problem. For years, it's been known as one of the most dangerous places in the world. The city of San Pedro Sula even held the title of murder capital of the world for a while. That's not a title any place wants to win. Honduras has beautiful beaches, ancient ruins, and lush rainforests. But it also has very high crime rates. In 2022, there were about 35.1 murders per 100,000 people. That's really high. To put it in context, the U.S. rate was about 6.3 per 100,000 in the same year. What does this mean for tourists? It means you need to be very careful. Criminals often target visitors. They know tourists usually carry cash and valuable items. Robberies, carjackings, and even kidnappings are real risks. But here's something that might surprise you. Despite all these dangers, many Americans still visit Honduras. In 2019, before the pandemic, over 350,000 U.S. citizens traveled there. That's a lot of people going to a place the U.S. government says is very risky. Why do they go? For some, it's the low prices. Honduras is much cheaper than many other tropical destinations. Others are drawn by the country's natural beauty. The Bay Islands, with their clear waters and coral reefs, are a big draw for divers. Some tourists say they felt safe during their visit. They stayed in protected areas and took guided tours. But experts warn that this can give a false sense of security. Crime can happen anywhere, even in tourist zones. The Honduran government knows tourism is important for the economy. They've tried to make things safer. There are now special tourist police in some areas. But these efforts haven't solved the bigger problems. One of the main issues is gang violence. Honduras has a lot of gangs. They fight for control of neighborhoods and drug routes. This violence affects everyone, including tourists. It's not just violent crime that's a problem. Petty theft is very common. Tourists often report having bags or phones stolen. Even in nice hotels or restaurants, you have to watch your stuff all the time. The U.S. State Department gives Honduras a level 3 travel advisory. That means reconsider travel. They say American citizens should be extra careful in Honduras. They warn about the high crime rates and the limited ability of police to respond to problems. But some areas are safer than others. The Bay Islands, including Roatan, have lower crime rates than the mainland. Many cruise ships stop at Roatan. Tourists often say they felt safe there. But even on the islands, you still need to be careful. Honduras also faces other problems that can affect tourists. The healthcare system isn't great. If you get sick or hurt, it might be hard to find good medical care. The roads are often in bad shape, making travel difficult and sometimes dangerous. Despite all these issues, Honduras keeps trying to attract tourists. They talk about their beautiful national parks and wildlife. The tourism industry is a vital part of the country's economy. This creates a strange situation. On one hand, you have a country that desperately wants tourists. On the other, you have very real dangers that make it risky for those same tourists to visit. Pakistan, where one wrong turn could be your last. Now let's talk about Pakistan. It's a country that many Americans see as dangerous. The U.S. government warns citizens to be very careful if they go there. Why? Because some parts of Pakistan can be risky, especially for Americans. Pakistan has had problems with terrorism for years. Some groups don't like the U.S. and might try to harm American visitors. In 2002, a group attacked a church in Islamabad. They killed 5 people, including 2 Americans. This shows how real the danger can be. But it's not just terrorism that's a worry. Kidnapping is also a big risk in some areas. In 2011, an American aid worker was taken in Lahore. He was held for over 3 years before being freed. These kinds of incidents make many Americans scared to visit Pakistan. The government in Pakistan tries to keep tourists safe. They have special police to protect visitors, but they can't be everywhere all the time. This means tourists need to be very careful and aware of their surroundings. Some parts of Pakistan are more dangerous than others. The areas near Afghanistan are very risky. The U.S. government tells people not to go there at all. Other parts, like the big cities, are safer, but even there, visitors need to be alert. Despite all these risks, some Americans still visit Pakistan, and many of them have good experiences. Take Sarah, for example. She's a travel blogger from Chicago who went to Pakistan in 2019. She said, "I was nervous at first, but I felt very safe. The people were so kind and welcoming. It wasn't at all what I expected." Sarah visited Lahore and Islamabad, 2 of Pakistan's biggest cities. She saw beautiful mosques and tried amazing food. She even went to the mountains in the north, where she said the views were breathtaking. Her story shows that not all of Pakistan is dangerous. But Sarah's good experience doesn't mean Pakistan is safe for everyone. She did a lot of research before her trip. She hired local guides and stayed in safe areas. She also kept a low profile and didn't draw attention to herself as an American. Pakistan has a lot to offer tourists. It has ancient ruins, beautiful mountains, and a rich culture. The country wants more people to visit. They're trying to change their image and show that Pakistan can be a good place for tourists. However, the risks are still there. In 2018, gunmen attacked a luxury hotel in Gwadar, a port city. They killed 5 people. This attack was aimed at hurting Pakistan's efforts to attract more visitors. It shows that even as things get better, dangers still exist. For Americans thinking about going to Pakistan, research is key. It's important to know which areas are safe and which aren't. Checking the U.S. State Department website is a good start. They give up-to-date information about safety in different countries. It's also smart to talk to people who have been to Pakistan recently. They can give real-life advice about what to expect. Travel forums and blogs can be helpful for this. But remember, everyone's experience is different. If you do decide to go to Pakistan, there are ways to stay safer. Using a trusted tour company is a good idea. They know the safe areas and can help if problems come up. It's also important to respect local customs and dress codes. This helps you blend in and avoid unwanted attention. The most dangerous country for Americans isn't where you think. We've looked at some risky places, But the most dangerous country for Americans might shock you. It's not North Korea, Somalia, or any far-off land. It's right here at home, the United States. Let's look at the facts. In 2019, about 16,425 people were murdered in the US. That's a rate of 5 murders per 100,000 people. Now, compare that to the number of Americans killed overseas. In the same year, only 135 US citizens died from unnatural causes abroad.